This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with a daily wrestling news update. Gotta put up the poster for the Great North Wrestling July 15th event featuring Carlito, Nunzio, the Blood Hunter, and Teddy Hart, among others, before I get into it. Because Teddy Hart's uncle, Bret the Hitman Hart, was inducted into the Canada Walk of Fame today. Congratulations to him. I don't know much about the Canada Walk of Fame. I know it's in Toronto, but it's another honor to add to his list of honors. Also, in the news, this is interesting. I did do a Wrestling Observer review earlier today with a very detailed look of the news, but apparently, WWE is looking to start pushing more younger stars in their 20s, since most of their over wrestlers right now are in their mid to late 30s and 40s. Apparently, for Night of Champions, only one wrestler is under the age of 30, and that's Rhea Ripley. And they have multiple 40 plus wrestlers such as AJ Styles, Brock Lesnar, Asuka, Natalia, and Trish Stratus. And they want to push young talent moving forward. But I'll tell you guys one thing: the most of their young talent does not have much experience. They're basically having their first matches through NXT, and they have yet to have a star from NXT built straight from NXT. Roman Reigns was from FCW, and he was never at the level of John Cena and Brock Lesnar or Batista, who were from OVW, and Cena started before that in UPW. So if you want to push the younger guys, that's fine, but there's a reason the younger guys aren't getting over, and they aren't like going to be given those opportunities unless you guys start forcing them down our throats, and that's because they're inexperienced, and you're hiring boring personalities, you're hiring college athletes and so forth. There's no more like Roddy Pipers who has been wrestling since he was like 14, or crazy characters. It's just like too cookie cutterish. I think eventually, as more and more of the more entertaining wrestlers retire and get too old to wrestle, it's going to affect them more and more. And who knows how much money UFC, because we know how cheap UFC is, who knows how much money UFC is going to put into developmental. They were supposed to start in NXT Europe by now. They haven't. So who knows? And I got to say, I watched an interview that Gerald Briscoe did with the apparent 7-degree karate grandmaster Abdullah the Butcher. He's been wrestling since he was a teenager, full time, making hundreds of thousands a year at his peak in Japan. However, he had time to still go to karate dojos and get a 7th-degree black belt. That's why we only ever see him do the thrust. You know what? I'll be honest. Superstar Billy Graham's karate gimmick, that's about as credible as Abdullah the Butcher's martial arts record. But it was interesting. I was hearing Briscoe talk about wrestling Abdullah a bunch of times, and then I'm looking it up, and it seems that Briscoe, according to his Wikipedia, dropped out of college because he had hepatitis at one point and became a professional wrestler. I don't know how accurate Wikipedia is, but according to Wikipedia, Briscoe also had hepatitis at one point. One of the funny things was about this interview, which, by the way, Abdullah didn't once again claim that he couldn't read or write in this interview. At least he didn't work this interview. He actually came off fairly intelligent. Is that at one point he's claiming that he wrestled 5 times on a TV taping and made $15 a match when he first started off. Now, he started wrestling in 1958, and I looked it up, And in 1960, 2 years after he started wrestling, 15 times 5 is $75. So that's the equivalent of $768 today. Now, keep in mind, the old TV matches had like 50 people in the studios, and they were done to promote the towns, and they weren't long. And then he went on to say that he complained to the promoter, and then the promoter, Gino Brito, gave him $250 on top of the $75. Now, $250 in 1960 is over $2,500 today. So he made, according to that, which he was complaining about for wrestling a TV match, in today's money, he made a huge amount of money, over $3,000 for 5 TV studio matches. But he lies a lot. But I just find it funny that Bradshaw, who was also involved in this interview, was talking like, oh, Abdullah was before his time. He was one of the highest paid wrestlers of Japan in the 80s, along with Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, and the Road Warriors. That's a fact. They were the highest paid foreigners in Japan. There's rumors they made as much as $10,000 a week during the peak of popularity in the 80s. So it's not like he never made money. He was also in WCW at one point. But I just find it funny because he wasn't before his time, because he never would have been in WWE. They don't like controversial characters. He never once wrestled for WWE. He's too controversial, and he goes into business for himself. They've never liked that, not since Vince McMahon Sr.'s time. And he even talks about the reason why Vince McMahon Sr. never used him was because he refused to do a job in Seattle that I guess Vince McMahon Sr. had requested. So he never wrestled for WWE, never wrestled in Madison Square Garden. So them saying in this that he was before his time, they wouldn't have used him. He was an outlaw. He's not their style, and they wouldn't have allowed a wrestler to have blood in every single match in WWE. It's just not their style, and that's how he got over. He was a gimmick wrestler. How's Piper, Mike? Piper is great. I just woke her up for you. Wrestling needs youth. It does need younger stars, but it needs entertaining younger stars. And definitely, you know what? We're working on Great North Wrestling, so I'm not going to worry about the other companies that I have absolutely no say in. All I can say is I'm going to make Great North Wrestling better and better, and Jack Kilby has good visions too. Bret on Most Wanted Treasures, by the way, did a 0.08 rating, and Austin's show did a dismal 0.05 rating. So Austin not as popular as he once was. Bret is looking rough. He's looking rough, but he has a very young wife. Don't forget Abby's tremendous physique got him over. Yeah, he got that physique from not being able to read restaurant menus and from doing martial arts training on his days off, where he holds a karate grandmaster degree, which is just funny. I'm sorry, guys. Anyone that believes that is hilarious. Oh, Mike Piper's glad you're happy to see her. Wrestling needs to look believable. Hello from England. Hello from England. Hello from Canada to you, Emma. Wrestling has lost its believability overall, other than with some guys like Brock Lesnar's, who I would rather watch than young wrestlers with no experience. And by the way, if we want to see wrestlers that in their 20s with no experience, all you got to do is try and watch NXT, which I watched it for The Rock's daughter's debut, and I watched a full episode with Braun Breaker against Jinder Mahal not too long ago, and it made me never want to watch it again. And I'll leave it at that. Patrick says hello to Piper. There you go. Well, guys, and I don't mean to be negative. I hope that for my sake, because I'm in the wrestling business, that there is a new star in wrestling, because there hasn't been like the last real big two stars in wrestling were The Rock and Austin. And after that, to a lower level, John Cena. But there hasn't been a new Hulk Hogan since The Rock and Austin era, where Goldberg, you could say he was a massive star too. So I hope that star comes along and really, really makes wrestling cool again. Eddie says AEW is hard to watch. How are they going to have another 2-hour show? Well, they're getting paid for it, so they're going to create it. But Rampage is doing really bad ratings, so it's like instead of trying to fix the one show that's dying, they're going to add another show. I don't know. It's a lot of content, and now they're talking about adding another hour onto SmackDown possibly. Like, how can anyone keep up with all this wrestling? More is not always better. Less is sometimes better. Remember any of you people my age when it was like 1 or 2 hours a week for Superstars and Challenge, very easy to follow. And then every once in a while you got Saturday night's main event, and that was like really special, and then you really wanted to watch it, and you were like treated to that. Now there's just so much wrestling, and the shows are really long, and there's a lot of talking. So speaking of wrestling, by the way, I am going to do a live watch along tomorrow at 1 p.m. for the Saudi Arabia WWE pay-per-view. Yes, Patrick, I agree. Saturday morning wrestling was amazing. Fully agree with you on that. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Piper and I are going to check out for now. Too many promos is the last thing I'll say. I agree with you, buddy.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the